What's going on, YouTube? Back again this week with my comic book haul. Wanted to do it a little bit different this week because last week I kind of felt not necessarily that I was unprepared, but I didn't get to read as many comics. I tried to put out the video as I picked up the comics. I didn't end up doing a follow up video for everything else that I picked up last week. I just did it for my main haul. This week it's Thursday instead of Wednesday. I went and picked up my comics last night. Read what I felt like I really wanted to read. I know that there's some of them that I'll get around to reading them this week, or maybe over the course of the next night or two. Yeah, so go over what I thought of some of the books. I'm trying not to do too many spoilers, but there may be some spoilers. So if you guys haven't read, what was it, House X or Powers of 10 this week? I think it's House of X this week. If you haven't read House of X, or House of X or Absolute Carnage, I'll try not to spoil anything. My assumptions last week were totally off when it came to some of the books and what I anticipated was going to happen in them. Riri Williams, yeah, there was something epic that happened at the end of Ironheart last week, and it was not what I anticipated. I thought they were maybe going to go like a cloned route, or they were going to do something with her character where she was either, because it's the whole what is it, something where you're fighting villains. I can't remember what they're calling these covers right now. The alternate covers actually have the name on it. Marvel's doing, like, everybody's doing one. But the Riri Williams one, I thought it was going to be where she was going to have to fight herself, or there was going to be some kind of clone of her. Yeah, no, that is not the route they went. This Circle of, I think it's called Circle of 10, is this villainous group of assassins or killers that have been trying to recruit her. Yeah. Needless to say, one of the members is somebody close to her that's not close to her. I'll leave it at that. I'll let you guys read it if you guys are into it. I won't spoil it completely. But and I'm telling you, like, I know a lot of people, and I talked this up in my local comic book shops, I know a lot of people aren't on the Riri Williams Ironheart bandwagon. Nobody cares about this comic, it seems. I'm loving it. And the thing is, I think that as they go on, the print run is getting shorter and shorter, because I go into my local comic shop, which I got it on my pull list now, but I didn't have it on my pull list. You would go into the comic book shop and they wouldn't have any. They'd be like, oh, you guys sold out? Oh, yeah, well, we only got 2 in. Or we only got 3. It's like, the heck? You know what I mean? Like, I've been able to find all of them as of recently, but I went ahead and added it to my pull list just because I'm getting kind of nervous that something good is about to happen, or something big may be getting ready to happen in this series. And as soon as somebody hears that it happened, then everybody's going to want the book. Kind of like Captain Marvel. Nobody was really reading Captain Marvel. Like, you could go into my local comic book shop before the whole Star was revealed, or, new character reveal. Before that, you could go in there and pick up any issue you wanted. I mean, you could get the backlog all the way to issue 1. And then, like, one of the comic book shops that we have up here, Infinity Flux, great shop. I really love them because they have a lot of variant covers. You could go in there, pick up 5-6 different covers for issue 1 of Captain Marvel. Now that Star's hit, people are going back. They're starting to buy them, and it's not as easily accessible, I guess you would say, now to get back issues, or at least certain back issues. Obviously, any of the stuff that involves Star, you're not able to get. Even second and third prints, or whatever prints they're on right now, as far as like issues 8, 9. I don't think they did a second print of 9 came out this week. I actually have it right here. So I'm sure that 10 will probably, this was a second print of 9. I'm sure that they'll probably do a second print of 10, because I think that was the issue where she actually fights Star for the first time, or there was something of that matter. I'm not really reading it. But back to Riri Williams, man, excellent book. If you're not reading it, you're missing out. Like I said last week, I think the thing that kind of grips me is, yeah, it's kind of an Iron Man slash sort of story, but it's based off a young girl. Her dialogue is relevant to the times now. So the way that she talks, it's the way my nieces and nephews and my son talk. So I can relate to it. You know, it's just the way that kids talk nowadays. And some of the stuff that they say in the book, I hear around my house every night. You know, you listen to the kids and their conversations and the way that they kind of bicker amongst each other, or the slang that they use, or the way that they talk. That's the way they talk in Riri Williams' Ironheart. So I really can relate to it in that aspect. I don't know who's doing the art on that book, but I mean it's great. I don't know. I'm a fanboy, I guess. We'll go ahead and get into these books, and like I said, I'm trying not to do too many spoilers. I will give my opinion on some of them because, man, we had some great books that came out this week. But I'll probably say that every week because there's so many books that get released. I have some that are my guarantee, like I have to read it as soon as I get it. Like Venom, anything with Donny Cates that he's putting out right now, like in my opinion, Donny Cates is leading the pack. Not to take anything away from Hickman and what he's doing, but Donny Cates is killing it right now. I'm really, really enjoying this Venom, Absolute Carnage, this whole conglomerate that they're doing right now. Even the tie-ins. I don't like all the tie-ins, but I'm trying to read pretty much all the tie-ins. Anything that has to do with the Absolute Carnage storyline, I'm following it pretty closely, and I'm actually really, really enjoying it. It's really engulfing, and I feel like they're doing it justice. Whereas some of these, like the War Realms, it's kind of like, you try to get all the tie-ins, the story just isn't as gripping, and it's like, yeah, I can't wait for this to be over with so we can go back to my regularly scheduled programming on this comic or that comic. This one, I think, for me, because it is part of the Spider-Man universe, it's a little bit more closer to home because those are the type of comics that I'm drawn to. I like Spider-Man. I like the X-Men. Those are my two go-to comics. I don't read a lot of DC. I do read a lot of independent, but in independent, you're not as drawn into the actual universe. Whereas the Spider-Man universe, which it ties into the Marvel or the MCU, but it's kind of its own thing. The villains that you'll find in Spider-Man, I mean, they have enough substance to them that they can hold their own. I mean, they've put out some great Venom books, and I feel like that's the same thing that Donny Cates is doing with this Absolute Carnage series. But I'm not going to ramble too much more because we got a lot of books to get into. So we'll go ahead and I'll show you the books that we picked up this week. I picked up quite a few back issues this week too, like restocks that some of my local comic book stores were doing. Every time I go in to pick up my pull boxes, which I have pull boxes in 3 different stores for different reasons. Yeah, I always check the walls, just because I'll go into my main pull box, which is at B&M Comics. He's the closest one to my house. He has pretty much my whole pull box. Like that's where my pull sheet is a full page. Some of the stuff that's on there hasn't even came out yet. I got the new X-Men and the new Mutants that Hickman's going to be doing. Obviously, they're not out yet. There's some other stuff on there. But I always check his walls because there may be something on there. There may be something on the wall that I didn't know was coming out, or maybe I just want to check out if it's a number 1. Now, I do the opposite as far as other local comic book stores. I pick up buddies first so I can kind of get a glimpse at what all I got and what variant covers I got. And then I go to the other comic book stores to try to find the ones that I missed out on or that he maybe got shorted, because Diamond constantly is shorting all of these comic book stores. Or just see if they have some variants that maybe he didn't order. He doesn't have a customer base that really gets into the one-in variants. So he'll get the 1 in 10s, but he's not going to get the 1 in 25s, the 1 in 50s, or the 1 in 100s. So, it is what it is. But without further ado, I guess let's get into this comic book haul. The first book this week was J.J. Abrams / Henry Abrams Spider-Man. I love this book. Like, I was really hopeful on it when I first seen the previews for it, because it's like, oh, okay, J.J. Abrams, how is that going to convert over to, comics? I mean, just because somebody makes great movies or can direct or is a good screenwriter or whatever the case may be, doesn't always mean that it'll translate into the comic book world. I think that I've really felt like he did a really great job. Or they did a great job. The storyline takes place in the future. Not to get into who dies or, who's alive, but you have a death pretty early in the beginning of the storyline, and then it fast forwards, I think, 15 years or 25 years, something like that. I think it was 15 years. And, his kid is a teenager, and he's going through all this dilemma and this drama in school, and May's still around, so Aunt May kind of has to try to keep him in line. And Peter's kind of like an absent father a little bit because he's out saving the world, and his son's kind of rebellious towards that. So I really like it. I'm hoping that they can keep it going and that it'll keep the legs on it, because just because it's cool now, I think it's a 5-part series, doesn't mean it's gonna stay. It doesn't mean it's gonna keep my interest, I guess. I ended up picking up, that's cover A. I did get this variant, which I don't know what some of these were called. I think this was like Ramos. I'm sorry, I probably am butchering these names. That was another one of the variants. And then they actually had a die cut variant where it's actually cut out, kind of like they did in the 90s with like Sabretooth and Wolverine. So I thought that was kind of unique. I was really happy that that was in my pull box whenever I went to go pick up my comics. One of my comic book shops actually sold out of it, whereas the other one had, I think, all 3 of them. Let's see. Next one up, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. I've actually been keeping up with this one. I like the storyline. I mean, they bounce around a little bit, and they tend to do like one-off stories. I think last issue they were talking about it was kind of like a MJ only issue, just like they did the Spider Bite issue where it was about a kid with cancer and had like an imaginary superhero name and powers. But I do like what they're doing with this series. It's a fun, easy read. It's not something that you really got to think a lot about. There's no tie-ins to it. So, yeah. If you guys aren't reading this, I mean, pick it up and trade if nothing else. But it's definitely worth checking out. The next one was actually a Absolute Carnage tie-in. It's Lethal Protectors. I think they're going up to 3. Out of all the Absolute Carnage tie-ins, it's probably my least favorite, but it's still a fun read. If you guys read, what was that? Cult of Carnage. It was a one-shot. It's in direct relation to that. This one actually takes place after this issue. Actually takes place after Absolute Carnage 2. Yeah, after 2. So it ties right back into the Cult of Carnage. And I did pick up the B cover, the variant of that one. I thought the variant was actually a better cover, but it's all in, I guess, however you look at it. I like some of these crazy Carnage covers. They did get a restock on some of the Venom 17s. I bought this thinking that I didn't have it, and got it home and realized I bought it last week. And I believe this was a 1 in 25 variant. It was the Codex variant. They didn't have it last week. They were shorted, but they got it in this week, so I went ahead and picked that one up. I think that's pretty badass. And on to Absolute Carnage. This one, man, Donny Cates just keeps on drilling us. Like, it's an amazing series. Like, I honestly, like, I'm in love with this book. I keep waiting for Dylan to get some kind of powers. I mean, they kind of hinted at it, I think, in Venom 18. Might have been Absolute Carnage issue 2. I can't remember. One of them, he had the little gray eyes. Well, this one, they let you in on, they've extracted Normie Osborn's, or yeah, I think it's Normie's. They've extracted the codex from him, so hopefully the Absolute Carnage, or what the hell, Carnage isn't gonna come after him anymore. But not to spoil it, because I want you guys to enjoy this book. Somebody gets the symbiote at the ass end of this book, and that's a preview of it right there. Like, that is definitely like the big hint. And I didn't see it coming, because he had never been taken over by the symbiote before, and it's going to be interesting to see how powerful he actually is. So I picked up all of those covers, and I also grabbed the 1 in 25. This was the Cult of Carnage variant, and I got the 1 in 25 Codex variant. I think the Codex variant is probably the better of all the covers. A little bit harder to find, just because it was a 1 in 25, and a little bit more pricier too. But yeah, that Goblin's awesome. All right, let's get on to some of these Marvel comics. Well, I'll do one more. Amazing Spider-Man. I don't remember which one this one is, if it was 28 or 29. I missed this cover. It wasn't in my pull box, but everything that they get shorted, sometimes they get back, and Diamond actually restocked them on what they got shorted last time, so I ended up picking that one up. That was the only one I was missing from that. Black Panther and the Agents of Wakanda. I actually only bought this book. I actually bought 2 copies of this book, and the only reason I bought them is because the live show that one of my comic book stores does on Tuesday night was selling them for $1 a piece. So I went ahead and bought 2 of them. Bought one for me and one for my son. And yeah, it is the most boringest book. It's the most boringest comic book I think I've ever read in my life. I don't usually tell people don't buy a comic, or this comic's bad. I personally did not enjoy that comic. Matter of fact, I didn't make it all the way through. I gave up on it. I made it probably halfway through, and I mean, it's a comic. It's not like a graphic novel or something. I mean, it's maybe 32 pages. I doubt. It was extremely boring. But anyways, another one of the back issues that I missed last week was Powers of 10, issue 4. This was the new character variant. For some reason, Powers of 10 and House of X issues 4, I missed both the new character variants. I still haven't found the House of X character variant for issue 4, but it is what it is. I mean, there's so many of these covers that it doesn't really matter at some point. But I did pick up House of X issue 5. That was the A cover. You got Scotty Young cover. I can't remember which one this one was. I think it was the Pacelli cover. And this one was the wraparound cover, or the connecting cover. This was the connecting cover. This was the Decades cover. And then the 1 in 10. I like that 1 in 10. The 1 in 10s on these have been really good. I actually got 2 of the 1 in 10s. And the action figure variant. Once again, Hickman, I mean, he slays with this one. Man, it's just so hard because I don't know how much to really tell. Let's just say the last 2 to 3 pages really wrapped it up for me, where I was like, wow, I did not see that coming. Really was happy with where they're taking it and who they're getting involved or recruiting in. So yeah, it's going to be fun to see if they can hold it together and not fight amongst themselves. Because this whole series, if you guys have been following it, Professor Xavier and Magneto, they've been running thick as thieves. I mean, there's been no bickering. They see the same vision. They have the same ideology. So there's been no kind of confrontation between the two. But you have had confrontation with quite a few other mutants not seeing or not wanting to fall in line with what they're wanting to do. Well, now I think that some of the guys are starting to get on board. The only thing with Hickman is because his both series kind of jump around so much, you don't know which decade you're really on, because you might be current, you might be 10 years in the future, you might be 100 years in the future. It's kind of a little bit where you got to kind of read the comic twice sometimes. This one I think may have been sitting in my pull box from last week. I don't know. That was the only cover I actually got for Silver Surfer Black. They're supposed to pull all the covers for me, but needless to say, they didn't. And I got Power Rangers foil cover. I haven't been reading that. I just like the foil covers, so I've been picking up the foil covers. It's kind of like Ninja Turtles. Like, I'll pick them up and see. You know, I'm not going to read them, though. I did read this one, though. It came out maybe 2 weeks ago. Headless. Excuse me. I liked the book. I know there was a lot of hype behind it. They got a restock at my local comic book shop, so I went ahead and bought another copy. Killers. I've been bragging about this one to everybody too. Between this one and Watcher, those are my 2 independent comics that I'm in love with. Like, they're amazing. I mean, Something's Killing the Children was a really good read. Trying to think, there was something else that came out as of recently that was a really, really good book that was independent. Kanto has been really good for his, I think he's up to 4 issues now, maybe 5, I can't remember. I think he's only going to 6. Hopefully they'll reboot that one though. That was the A cover. This one is the B cover. And I lucked up and got the pre-order edition cover also. The premise for this book, if you guys haven't heard of it or aren't reading it, and it's pretty easy to find because it's not a super huge title. It's not something that's going to probably pick up any kind of extreme value or anything like that. There's no hype behind it. But they're ninja assassins, and they all have like Ninja J, Ninja G, Ninja whatever names. Well, their sensei, he has individually summons them to kind of do an errand for him or find this artifact that supposedly can keep him alive. But he individually told them, so they're kind of in the dark that everybody else is looking for this same thing until they bump off into each other. And as they bump off into each other, obviously the fighting and the killing ensues. I like it. Like, I really like the whole ninja aspect and the whole assassin aspect. I mean, the storyline, it's gripping enough to keep you compelled to try to find out what's going to happen next. But it's also not like a heavy read where you're like, oh my gosh, I got to keep up with all these characters. Like, I'm not worrying about what the letter is behind the ninja. Because some of them, they're coming across, like, I think it was, yeah, that guy. He doesn't even want to be called by his ninja name. He wants to be called something else. I'd have to read it again. Another cool thing that I actually liked about this book is at the end, It gives a preview for, who was it? Oh man, it's a Roku, ROKU series that's coming out. She was in another Valiant series back in like 2015, and she's actually going to get her own book, and they're having Cullen Bunn headline it. So got a new Cullen Bunn book coming out called Roku, and she looks like a badass. I can't remember the series that she premiered in off the top of my head. The worst part was I actually knew. It's not going to show in the back, but either way, got a new Cullen Bunn book coming out in, I think they said October. I'm almost positive it said October. It might have been November, but I think it's October. New G.I. Joe came out this week. I picked up the A cover, and I picked up I think this was it's a 1 in 10 variant. I haven't read G.I. Joe in an extremely long time. Not since like Marvel in the 80s, early 80s. I really like this book. Not to give away too much, but one of the main characters gets killed within the first 4 or 5 pages. And Cobra has won. So you're starting off a series where Cobra already pretty much runs the world, and G.I. Joe is on the back end of it. So I may pick it up for maybe an issue or 2 more before I decide if I'm going to put it on my pull list or not. The art is okay on it. The storyline's pretty compelling right now. But I don't know if it's gonna take legs. Like, I don't know if it's gonna grow on me or not. So we'll see. I did like issue 1 though. This one, unfortunately, I didn't get to read yet, but I loved issues 1 and 2. It's Second Coming. The premise is God has sent Jesus back to Earth to kind of be mentored by a Superman-style superhero. Except for this superhero, he kicks more ass than Superman does. I mean, he beheads robots, and come to find out, like, they're not really robots. They're people in robot costumes. And God's loving every bit of it. So it's kind of racy. I mean, if you're really into, like, you don't like anything sacrilegious, or you feel like it's sacrilegious, I mean, it has its message behind it. I'm personally enjoying the book. I can't wait to get around to reading this one. I'll probably read it tonight. I don't know. I think it's kind of fun. I picked up a Once and Future. I think this is maybe like the 5th or 6th printing. I'm not sure. I got the first print of it. It's issue 1. I picked it up just because it was around, and then I got issue 2. I haven't got around to reading it yet. Speaking of next printings or second printings, or I don't know if this one's the 4th printing or the 5th printing of Something Is Killing the Children. This is another one where I actually have a couple copies of the first one. I was able to get cover A and C on the first print. Haven't got around to reading this one yet, but it's from Aftershock Comics. It's Are You Obsolete? I think the premise for it has something to do with cell phones. Either cell phones have the kids kill adults or something like that. Like, it looked kind of creepy. And I did pick up I think it's the 1 in 10 variant. Thought it was pretty cool. And then they had a second printing of Unnatural issue 12, which I'm still trying to catch up on the series. I've picked up, I believe, all of them except for issue 2. But I do have a PDF of it. And I think I'm on issue 7. And just to go over a couple back issues that I got this week. Set them up top right there. We got X-Men 199, 215, 221, 283, 285, 299, 314, and 318. I didn't pay much for them. Most of them, I mean, he had them marked up pretty high. Like some of them are like $3 and $4, but he had some of them marked up pretty high. But because I do a lot of business with him, he cut me a pretty good deal. And I think he bought a whole stack of X-Men comics this go around. So, well, that is this week's haul. And hopefully you guys are enjoying this content. I'm really into these comics right now. Like some of these stories, man, they're that good that I feel like if you're not reading them, I don't know why you're not. I understand not everybody gets off into comics, or you might be into DC. Like, as you can tell, this week I didn't buy any DC books. I'm not really into them. If there's some hype behind something, I might pick one up here and there, but I don't really read them. So, but let me know what you guys think. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. If you know anybody who likes comic book content, we may be getting back into some Funko Pops. I'm just waiting for a couple series to release. I know I want to get the My Hero Academia next season or series that drops. It should be dropping anytime now. It's supposed to come in October, I think. I've already pre-ordered some of the exclusives, so we may get into a couple of Funko Pop videos. But for now, it's going to be pretty much just comics or comic related. But if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, share, like, drop a comment down below. Tell me what you think. What do you think about this haul? Was there any of these that were on your top 10 list, or anything that's in your pull box? If you have any recommendations or some stuff that you think that I might enjoy reading, drop it down below. I'll check it out. Even if I got to pick it up in trade or download a PDF for it, I mean, it's nothing. Thanks for watching. Appreciate your time.